Since we took a look at the housing market of 2021, we saw that we had a 19% increase in sales prices of homes. To help us answer the burning question of what is going on with the housing market for 2022, I brought my very special, rare Oregon crystal ball. Let's take a look at what the economist superstars are saying about housing inventory, house prices and affordability, the mortgage interest rates, and then we will have a quick peek at some of the different factors going on in our economy and our nation that affect home buying and home selling. And then we'll look at how buyers and sellers can navigate 2022 housing market. First off, let's talk about inventory. Now, of course, we know inventory is super low last year and it's going to be really low this year too. On the bright side, we're looking at inventory increasing over the next 3 years. It's going to be a moderate growth, but we are looking at more houses coming on the market. And according to a survey, 1 in 5 sellers were thinking about putting their houses on the market this year. So what's different? Well, with COVID, we created remote working environments. There are more people who are working remotely at home and that are planning on staying remote workers. Traditionally, we had to buy our homes near our workspace. We wanted to keep our commutes pretty small. Now, with remote working, we can live anywhere almost as long as we have an internet connection. New construction has continued to increase, but it hasn't been without its own challenges. The cost of land and the ability to get the land is a lot more difficult. System development costs are quite expensive. To put on top of that, you have the cost of materials. Everybody heard about what was going on with lumber last year. And then we don't have enough laborers to come in and build the houses. We need skilled laborers, electricians, plumbers, painters, carpenters. There are some other factors that are keeping people in their homes. One is that many homeowners are still worried about not being able to find a replacement house if they sell their home. Nobody wants to be homeless, of course. We also have 45 million millennials coming into the prime home purchasing age. And that's a lot of people looking to buy a new place to live. And we have the boomer generation. They're choosing to age in place, which means instead of selling their home and downsizing, they prefer to stay at their homes and then they can accommodate a caregiver. Then we have housing price increases, and that affects affordability. Of course, last year we had all of those huge increases in sales prices, and we're still expecting in 2022 housing prices to be on the rise. However, housing prices are expected to increase closer to a 5% increase rate rather than the 19% that we saw last year in Lane County. So what is keeping housing prices on the rise? Well, we've got our supply and demand that we've always been dealing with, not enough houses and a whole lot more people who want to buy. One of the positive changes is that incomes have risen approximately 3.3% last year. That helps incomes keep pace with increased housing prices, particularly when the prices are not going to increase at quite the same quick rate. Now, talking about housing prices, we have to keep in mind that the sales price is set by the seller and the buyer. It is what the buyer is able and willing to pay for the house and what the seller is willing to accept for the house. That's how the pricing is set. And now we're going to move on to mortgage rates. That's a hot topic. Yes, mortgage rates have been historically low for a couple of years now, and they're still at very small rates, but they are inching up. Now, the Feds just announced yesterday that they are planning on raising the rates in March, and it usually raises about a quarter of a basis point, and they're planning to raise rates 3 times this coming year. Economists expect that by the end of this year, the mortgage rates are going to be 3.9%. Now, why are they going to do that? Well, that's how the federal government can control inflation. What do higher mortgage rates mean for you? Well, it means higher payments. Or if you need to keep your payment at a certain level, then you can't buy as much house. It's just the way it works, because you have to be within your debt to income ratio in order to qualify for your loan. Now, what does this mean for sellers? Higher mortgage rates will impact selling prices of houses. Even though we have low inventory, people have to be able to afford the house. So that's another reason why we may not be seeing the huge increases. Of course, we've had the impacts of COVID, and we've had the impacts of the supply chains, and then labor shortages, and that's across all sectors that we're seeing not enough workers. And this all brings us to, what does it mean for buyers and sellers? For buyers trying to navigate this housing market, you have to really prepare yourself financially to get in there and compete for the home that you want. Have very low debt. Of course, you have to look at your credit scores. You want those as high as you can get. Try to get into the 700s. And that way you are qualifying for more house and for better interest rates. And that makes your housing payment more affordable. Know your budget and stick with it. You never want to get in and be house poor. You want to be able to have a life outside of your home. Understand your timelines. Do you have to be out of your current place by a certain time? Or is there some flexibility in being able to extend your rental period on maybe a month-to-month basis until you get into your house? Now for sellers, what does it mean for you? Well, you're going to have to understand your local market, your neighborhood, and what the type of your house is going to be valued at. It's very important to make sure that your home is in good condition and it's priced correctly. We don't want it overpriced, because then it's going to sit on the market for too long. There's that sweet spot where you price your house. The goal is to attract the most qualified buyers in the shortest amount of time, so you can get your house sold without hassles and move on to your next place. Wrap up. We have to look at inventory, mortgage rates, the pricing of houses, and the affordability. We have to look at what else is going on in the economy that may be pushing at our housing market, and how do you navigate best in this market? Remember to click the subscribe button down below and then hit the little notification bell next to it so you can be the first to know when I bring more forecasts and I look to the future to see what parts of our great South Willamette Valley we're going to look into next. See you soon.